Molly ditched me again and got back with Vincent. I finally felt completely done. When she left, she said, "Mark, go get yourself a girlfriend. I won't be coming back to you." I nodded and smiled. Okay. She thought as long as she wanted to come back, I'd always be there. But later, when she broke up with Vincent again and came looking for me, she happened to catch me kissing my girlfriend passionately downstairs. The night was deep, and Molly saw the boy who once only showed her tenderness, now sweet-talking another woman. Lily, don't get jealous, okay? I haven't liked her for a long time. When I was about to make a wish, Molly was spaced out for the third time. She absent-mindedly pulled out her phone, unlocking and locking the screen several times, until suddenly, the screen lit up with a message. Her slightly furrowed brows instantly relaxed. In the midst of everyone singing happy birthday to me, Molly just left the room. The song awkwardly trailed off. A person beside me nudged me out of worry. "Mark, you okay?" I smiled bitterly. What's there to be okay about? After so many years, I've become numb to this scene. Everyone in the private room started whispering. Just scrolled through social media. Vincent was back in the country 2 days ago. Did Molly pick him up from the airport? Of course, everyone knows how much Molly likes him. Keep your voice down, don't let Mark hear. So what if he hears? The second choice must live with it. Now that the main guy is back, he's out. Voices got louder and noisier when the door opened from the outside. Molly returned, but this time with Vincent. Both were wearing black cashmere coats. Molly looked slim and beautiful, Vincent tall and handsome. Truly a picture-perfect couple. Everyone gathered around them excitedly. I stood aside, wisely choosing not to approach, until Molly called my name, "Mark." That's when the room suddenly went quiet. Everyone looked at me, now supposedly Molly's boyfriend. Vincent looked at me too, then unhappily let go of Molly's hand. Molly seemed a bit helpless. She murmured something to him until he smiled. Then she walked over to me. "Mark, I have something to tell you." I looked up at her. After a moment, I asked softly, "Can't it wait until after I cut the cake?" Molly avoided my gaze. "Mark, okay." I put down the knife and fork, waiting for her to speak. "You know, I've always had Vincent in my heart," she said, frowning slightly as she looked at me, "and honestly, you're just not my type. Being together all these days was pretty boring. Are we breaking up?" Molly nodded without hesitation. "Mark, go get yourself a girlfriend. I won't be bothering you anymore." It wasn't the first time she had told me this, but before, I always stubbornly shook my head. This time, though, I smiled and nodded. "Okay." Molly frowned slightly, as if she wanted to say something, but Vincent was already impatient. "Molly, seriously, how long does it take to break up?" She said nothing more and left with Vincent. I tightened my grip, my fingertips digging into my skin. Yet it felt like I couldn't feel the pain. Still, I couldn't help but lift my eyes and watch her back as she left. Every step so decisive and firm. I counted, took her 11 steps to leave the room. As those 11 steps ended, it felt like I finally let go. Once Molly left, everyone in the room started to disperse too. I looked at the cake in front of me, cut a slice and placed it on a plate, opened a bottle of wine. But in the end, I didn't touch the cake, only finished the wine. Putting on my coat, I walked out of the room. Not far away, someone was setting off fireworks. I stopped and watched for a while. When the sky lit up with explosions of color, I saw Molly nestled in Vincent's arms. He was smiling brilliantly, and Molly had her arms tightly around him, lifted her head for a tender kiss. Today is my birthday, yet it's clear these fireworks weren't for me. I laughed at myself, turned, and stumbled forward. People drunk along the way tried to stop me. "Want to hang out with us?" Couldn't help but fret. Other than Molly, I didn't know anyone here. But could I ask Molly for help? Just as I was distracted, Molly had already left with Vincent, and in front of me someone grabbed my wrist. I struggled desperately but too drunk to put up a fight. Just as their hand was about to fall on my face, through the deep darkness I saw a familiar figure. Lily was wearing a dark gray knee-length coat, seemed to be on her phone. The dappled light fell on her profile. I couldn't worry about anything else and called out, "Lily." When Lily turned to look at me, her cold eyes in the night like starlight, devoid of warmth or waves. But after a moment of hesitation, she hung up the phone, walked over to me. The drunk people seemed to note her superior status, wisely let go and walked away. As soon as they did, my legs gave out. Lily reached out, holding me steady. "Stand." I whispered a thank you, trying hard to steady myself, but still wobbled, almost falling several times. Lily frowned slightly, continued to steady me. "Where's Molly?" "Not with you? Broke up." She might have chuckled, but maybe I misheard it. "You guys break up every other day." I lowered my head, staring at my toes. That kind of bitter sadness spread from my heart to my throat. When I spoke again, my voice was hoarse. "It's real this time. No getting back together." Lily seemed uninterested in my words. She checked her watch, her voice cold. "Can you get home? My stomach hurts." "You just got over an ulcer. Should drink less." "But today's my birthday." I lifted my slightly red eyes and looked at her. "Lily, I'm just in a bad mood. That's why I drank." Lily didn't say anything, but it was obvious. Her gaze seemed a bit softer. "I'll take you home first. I don't want to go back." Lily glanced at me, her eyes deepening. "Then what do you want to do? Lily, tell me. It's my birthday today. I don't want to be alone." Lily was silent for a few seconds, then spoke. "Get in the car with me first." "I'm not going home." Lily held the steering wheel with one hand and glanced at me. "I know. To be precise, we kissed in the basement garage." She was leaning over to unbuckle my seatbelt. When she leaned over, her high nose accidentally brushed against me. "Lily." Drunk and slow to react, I stared at her blankly, forgetting to dodge. Lily looked at me, but she didn't avoid me either. Her eyes gradually grew warmer, making my mouth dry and hot. I don't remember who kissed who first. When I came to my senses, Lily had already pulled me in, deepening the kiss. I've been on and off with Molly a few times, and we were together for nearly a year. We held hands. She kissed me too, but maybe because I wasn't really into it. The kisses were always quick, like a bird skimming water. But Lily's kiss was deep, so deep I was almost out of breath before she stopped. In the dim light of the car, she leaned her forehead against mine gently. "Mark, you should close your eyes when you kiss." "Why?" Lily kissed me again because looking at me like that, I can't hold out till we get home. This time the kiss was long and comfortable. I couldn't help but hum softly, raising my hand to run my fingers through her thick, dark hair. "Lily, no rush, we have the whole night. I don't want to be a pathetic second choice anymore. I don't want to be at someone's beck and call. Letting go of someone you once really liked is hard, very hard. So I don't want to give myself a way back. I don't want to turn back. After tonight, there's no way Molly and I could ever be. Maybe it's because I've been so repressed for years. So when I rarely drink and let loose, I really go all out." Lily took me to the bedroom, and as she stood by the bed, undoing buttons, she suddenly paused and leaned down to look at me. "Mark, if you regret it now." I hooked my arms around her neck. "Lily, do doctors like you also want to retreat last minute?" Lily didn't answer. Her kisses were deep and strong. "Mark." Her scorching kiss landed again as she murmured against my ear. "Say my name, Mark." I moaned softly, "Lily." The kisses rained down like a gentle cascade. It rained late into the night outside the terrace. The delicate flowers were soaked by the early winter rain. Inside, it was a different kind of intoxicating warmth. By the time I woke up the next day, the sun was already up. Lily was off today and had breakfast ready. I washed up and sat down at the dining table. When she handed me warm milk, I hesitantly asked, "Lily, can I take a photo?" Just 10 minutes earlier, a nosy friend sent me a screenshot. Last night, Molly posted on her social media, "After all those people, it's still you." The picture was her and Vincent holding hands under a sky full of fireworks. Someone probably asked about me below. Molly replied, "Don't mention him anymore, Vincent won't like it." "What for?" Lily sliced a piece of bread and placed it on my plate. Her hands, usually holding a scalpel, were now holding a knife and fork. Yet every finger was like ivory, long and strong. It reminded me of last night, those long fingers causing chaos. Then there's the usually polite and unapproachable Lily. How could she be this wild in bed? Even more, those things she whispered in their peak moments. I dared not remember now. I turned my head, coughing lightly. I wanted to take a picture of your hands. Lily didn't respond. But after putting the bread down, she didn't pull her hand away. I slowly took out my phone, snapped a pic, and asked, "Can I post it online?" Lily peeled an egg nonchalantly. "I'm single." "Huh?" She glanced at me, placing the peeled egg on my plate. "Do as you like." I posted on social media. The bread cut by beautiful hands always tastes better. The picture showed Lily's mesmerizing hands. In just seconds, it spread like wildfire. All the group chats filled with Molly's friends were lighting up with screenshots of my post. Is it for real? Photoshop job, right? No kidding, those hands are gorgeous. Never thought Mark had it in him. This is probably just a photo he found online to get at Molly. Molly, childish. What do you think? Guess what if it's real? Mark's soft and pretty enough to pull it off. Molly, he wouldn't dare. You never know, even cornered mice bite. Didn't someone say something similar before? True that. Molly, would it bother you if Mark's really seeing someone? Molly, I told you he wouldn't dare. Yeah, if he really starts dating, there goes his backup plan. Molly, tell him to quit playing games. He's no Vincent. I'm not falling for it. After replying, Molly tossed her phone aside. Playing these tricks so dumb, Mark. Messages flooded in, all hinting at the meaning behind my post. I skimmed through and didn't bother replying. In the afternoon, Lily suddenly had to head to the hospital for surgery. Stay home and rest. I'll be back for dinner. She changed clothes, grabbed her keys, and headed to the door. I quickly followed her. I want to stop by the shop. Lily was swapping her shoes, eyeing me calmly. Got plans? I pressed my lips, averting my gaze. Molly's stuff is still there. I should pack it up for her assistant to pick up. Lily replied coolly, all right, I'll drive you. Lily, there's nothing between her and me. Before the words even left my mouth, I regretted it a bit. Honestly, Lily probably just had a spur-of-the-moment idea to bring me home. I didn't need to explain it all to her. I knew that. Lily looked back at me, her eyes surprisingly gentle. I'll come pick you up after work tonight. After dropping me off at the private kitchen restaurant, Lily drove off to the hospital. I started sorting through Molly's stuff. This tiny private kitchen restaurant I run, it had a room set aside for her. Sometimes, she'd use it to entertain close friends. Occasionally, she'd even stay the night. But we didn't live together. She had held me, kissed me. Once, when drunk, we almost went further. But in the end, I heard her slurring Vincent's name. In that moment, I sobered up. The body doesn't lie. Physical reactions can't be faked. Maybe it was right then that I finally woke up from this messy, hopeless love. Molly didn't love me. Not even a little bit. I carefully put her things in order. Then I called her assistant. Could you take some time to come by and get Molly's things? Mark, hold on a second. Sure. A few minutes later, the assistant called back. Mark, Molly said to leave the stuff there. She wants to stay friends and keep looking after your business. No need. I smiled. You should just come get it to avoid any complications. Mark, I'm here at the restaurant waiting for you. If you don't come, I'll send it over. With that, I hung up the phone. The assistant was a bit stunned. Molly? What do you think? Molly's face showed some displeasure. In 3 years, this was the first scene like this. First, he posted some inexplicably ridiculous thing on social media. Now, he wants to clear out her stuff completely. Looks serious. But she knew Mark best. He's head over heels in love with her. No way he'd like another woman. This was just a series of jealous antics. Mark used to be clueless, not playing games like this. Someone must have given him advice. Molly found it amusing. Maybe Mark didn't know, but trying stunts like this was full of holes for someone as straightforward as him. This isn't what she liked about him. What she liked was his obedience and gentleness. Molly's face went cold. Go, take everything back. Really, Molly? Take it back? The assistant was surprised. She nodded, of course. Tell him I won't go to his place again. When the assistant came to pick up the luggage, they passed on Molly's message. I wasn't surprised. Vincent returned this time to settle down for good. Naturally, their good news was imminent. Even if I had no place in Molly's heart, I still carried the tag of an ex. It's best to draw a clear line. Please also thank Molly for the business over the years. Mark, actually, Molly doesn't mean. I'm heading to the market, I smiled, effectively ending the conversation. The assistant had no choice but to get in the car with the driver and the 2 suitcases. After getting in, the assistant called Molly. Molly, where should your things be sent? What did he say? Mark said he's thankful for you taking care of his business. And then, the assistant paused. Nothing more. Molly stayed silent, and a few seconds later, the line disconnected abruptly. On the 3rd day, the restaurant got a booking. Someone reserved 2 rooms for an event. At 6 in the evening, Lily came by the restaurant after work. She wore a gray trench coat, still tall and elegant. But she looked different from that night. Her brows no longer held the same chilly aura. Her gaze was friendlier when she looked at me. It's going to be busy tonight. Might be tough to keep you company. No worries, I'll just wait in a room, she replied. What do you want to eat? I'm fine with whatever you're having. No way, it's your first time here, I replied, before asking the kitchen to make some light dishes. There's a special lounge here. I'll take you there and they'll bring the food, I suggested. But Lily didn't follow me. She leaned on the bar, watching me with calm eyes. I was puzzled. What's up? Lily chuckled. I don't go into other people's rooms. I was taken aback. I understood what she meant. Don't overthink it. That old room's now a guest room. This lounge is just for friends. Lily's smile deepened. All right. Her words had barely settled when a cool voice said, "Excuse me." I instinctively pulled Lily aside. My eyes fell on Molly and Vincent. Molly's gaze passed over me coldly, lingering on my hand, clinging to Lily's sleeve before it turned even icier. Vincent raised his brows at me in a taunting manner. Mark, long time no see. I nodded but said nothing. Molly averted her gaze, wrapping her arm around Vincent as they moved inside, not sparing me another look. Once they were out of sight, I felt Lily squeeze my hand. You show me the way. I got no idea where to go. Nodding, I let her lead me by the hand. After showing her to the lounge, I was about to head back when I said, "Rest here a bit. If I get a break, I'll have dinner with you." Lily grabbed my wrist. You have chefs, servers. You don't have to do everything. Lily. But before I could continue, she reached up and kissed me. It was like that overpowering kiss from the other night. I struggled to handle it. Not here, can't. I tried to push her away, but it seemed I was wrong. Or maybe she was different now, a bit crazy. Mark, right here. But no condoms. You could get pregnant. Then I'll have it. Lily, you're crazy. Think of it that way. As evening fell, the sky outside darkened. The wind was howling right in my ear. Lily couldn't help but make a sound, then choked back and bit her fingertip. I took her hand away and held it tight in my palm. Through the window, not far away, the lights were blazing. Inside, there were shadows bustling around, and glasses clinking. And Molly was in the middle of it all. How ridiculous, yet strangely thrilling and exhilarating. I lifted my hand and hugged Lily tight. Lily, give me a kiss. She obeyed and kissed me. When I left the room, my neck was still warm. I was hurrying towards the back kitchen. Molly's voice suddenly called out behind me. Was that the one from your social circle? I turned around, surprised, and saw her standing in the cold wind, her face stern. I was about to shake my head reflexively, but she snorted, "Mark, don't waste your time." Her cigarette-adorned fingers dropped to my cheek, but I turned my face away. Molly's voice was low and sounded lovely, but it stabbed at my heart harshly. Using a woman to piss me off? Mark, the way you're playing these little tricks now is not charming at all. Molly. I found it amusing, but also sighed and shook my head. I'm really not that bored. Maybe she'd never know, while she still arrogantly thought, as she always had, that I'd always be her backup, always humbly like her. But in reality, I'd already been intimate with other women. Intimate in a way I never had with her. But why couldn't I? Who really can't live without whom? Anyway, Molly flicked her cigarette and looked down at me, clearly not believing a word. Believe it or not, I didn't want to say more, walked around her, and left without looking back. Since that day, Molly hasn't come to my little shop again. And Lily and I continued our relationship. We got closer, yet somehow never really crossed a significant threshold. Half a month later, when Lucy and Candy arrived at the clubroom, Molly was drinking alone. She just had another argument with Vincent, and they parted unhappily. But during that hysteria with Vincent, she inexplicably thought of Mark. He never acted like that, never got angry, seeming like he had no temper at all. Even though she chose Vincent over him time and again, he never threw a fit. And when she went back to him, he'd only ask, "Molly, are you sure this time?" Whenever he asked that, she'd rub his face and say casually, "Sure, I'll just be with Mark from now on." He'd blush, his face turning a cute red and hot. If she leaned in and kissed him again, he'd be too shy even to look at her. Suddenly, Molly felt a restlessness in her heart. She put down her drink and frowned, pulling out her phone. It had been half a month since they ran into each other at the shop. Mark hadn't sent any messages. No calls, no texts. It was like he'd really vanished from her world. Lucy sat on the couch across from her. Drinking alone? Molly didn't reply. Lucy poured herself a drink, leaned back, and lounged on the couch. Recently, she had heard she was pregnant, and Shin Liangzhou was thrilled to bits. Lucy couldn't quite fathom what she felt about it. He seemed happy, and she wanted him to be happy. Yet there was a part of her that wished she was the one making him happy. "Molly, do you really have no feelings for Mark at all? Ugly and dumb. How could I have feelings for him? You don't think you feel anything for him? But in the last 3 years, other than Vincent, he's been your only boyfriend." Molly poured another drink. "So what? I only went for him to piss Vincent off." "Molly, don't be like me and Candy." Lucy's tone became serious. "You know, sometimes the person in it can't see things clearly. Molly, maybe you haven't realized it yet, but Mark isn't as insignificant to you as you think." "Impossible." Molly frowned deeply. "He's not my type at all." Candy smiled, clinking glasses with Lucy. "You're not going to convince her. Watch, she's one of those who has to hit rock bottom to realize it." Molly scoffed. "I'm not like you guys. I really don't like Mark. I don't feel a thing for him, otherwise I would have done something with him in the past 3 years. Just as she finished speaking, someone pushed the door open from outside. "Molly, guess who I just saw?" Molly's fingers tightened around her glass involuntarily. "Who did you see that's making such a fuss?" "Hey, I saw Mark." Her fingers slowly loosened, and she set down her drink, leaning back on the couch without a care, a lazy and relaxed pose. "So what if you saw him?" Even she might not have realized how much her expression had changed from just moments ago, her tone lifting from its previous gloominess. Lucy and Candy exchanged glances, both sighing helplessly. "I just asked him if he was here to see you, but he denied it." Molly smiled lightly. "Whatever. He's just shy, which is normal. Want me to call him over here?" Molly waved it off. "Don't. If he wants to see me, he can come himself. No way I'm calling him over." But her mood was good now. If Mark took the initiative, she'd give him a little attention. She thought he had really moved on, but he couldn't even last half a month. Feeling more lively, Molly joined a game of cards. But after several rounds, the door remained undisturbed. She was getting distracted, glancing at the door several times and making card mistakes. A friend noticed her unease and said, "You guys go ahead and play. I'm stepping out for a cigarette." After a short while, the person returned, looking a bit awkward. "Just saw Mark outside again. Sitting alone downstairs. Said he's waiting for someone." Molly tossed her cards and checked her watch. "It's already 10 at night. Who's she waiting for?" "I don't know either. I asked him to come up and sit for a bit, but he refused, saying he was waiting for someone." Molly felt the card game wasn't fun anymore. She casually picked a cigarette and snuffed it out in the ashtray. "I'm going out for some fresh air." I took out my phone to check the time. It was already 10. I figured Lily's surgery would probably wrap up late at night. She was supposed to hang out with me and some friends tonight. But a call from the hospital interrupted her. She thought she'd be done by 8:30, but there's still no word. I got up feeling a bit down. Even though I know, as a doctor, saving lives is her duty. It's just a little disappointing. I've been stood up or left hanging so many times over the years. Still, it gets to me. It's tough to be totally immune. Mark. Just as I turned to leave, I heard a familiar voice behind me. My back stiffened for a moment, but I quickly went back to normal. What's up? Molly walked up to me casually, raising an eyebrow as she looked at me. Hanging out with friends. One couldn't make it. I looked back at her calmly and spoke slowly. Molly laughed like she'd heard a joke. Mark, you know how you look when you're lying? I was a bit stunned, but then realized what was up. Of course, this is one of Molly's favorite spots. She probably thought I was here for her and was too embarrassed to admit it. But I didn't bother explaining. She wouldn't believe it anyway. So, I just smiled at her. I'm heading out first. Mark. Molly called out to me again. You can't keep making the same mistake over and over. You're wrong. I really am waiting for a friend. She had an emergency surgery at the hospital. The one in your social media? Molly's smile turned colder. Mark, I never knew you had any doctor friends. Someone I met during my last illness. I looked back at Molly. Remember the night I called you? Said my stomach hurt really bad? And you hung up on me? Molly's expression finally changed. Bit by bit. You were actually sick? There was some panic in her eyes. I thought you were just jealous of Vincent and making stuff up to trick me. It's fine, all in the past. I'm pretty much better now. I smiled. It's late. I'm heading back. For some reason, Molly didn't stop me anymore. But that's for the best. No more ties, cutting it clean, that's the way to go. Lily wrapped up the surgery by 11. And by then, I had just arrived back at the shop. Mark, I'm driving over to see you. Lily, you just finished surgery, you must be tired. Get some rest. I stood you up first. I owe you an apology in person. Lily. I softly said her name. I've always been realistic about things. These past few weeks we've had this close boy-girl relationship. But she has never promised me anything. I know Lily's just looking for something new. She doesn't like me. Like these 3 years with Molly, breaking up and getting back together. I've always known. She never really saw me as a boyfriend. In her world, everyone's rich and outstanding. I'm just a regular guy. If I have any plus side, it's probably being easygoing, and I can cook a good meal. I run a small shop well enough to have some financial freedom within limits. Just like Molly loves flashy guys like Vincent, Lily wouldn't be into someone like me. Back in college, she was the big deal senior everyone talked about. With that stunning guy from the English department, a campus couple everyone thought was perfect. Later on, they went their separate ways when he wanted to stay overseas, and Lily wanted to come back and be a doctor. Since then, Lily hasn't dated anyone, still single to this day. I saw that guy twice in college. Honestly, he's better looking than most famous actors. Only a guy like that could make Lily fall hard and be unforgettable. Mark, what's wrong? Lily's voice came through again, maybe too tired, sounding hoarse, yet calling my name surprisingly tender. I felt a sting in my eyes. Really, it wasn't much. Even though I was drunk that night, I knew it was all a one-time thing. Lily, let's not see each other again. There was a long pause on the other end. When she spoke again, it was still in that usual calm tone. Mark, let's talk in person. No need, we can talk over the phone. I'm on my way now, about 30 minutes. Lily, wait in your shop. Don't go anywhere. It's late and not safe. She ended the call. I was filled with a jittery unease inside. I didn't know what we'd talk about in person. Had no clue what she would say. 30 minutes felt endless, yet also flew by quickly. Lily called again. Mark, I'm outside your shop. I thought about not going outside, not meeting. Some words, knowing myself, are one thing. Hearing them is another. Sometimes I really want to be an ostrich. But winters in this city are freezing. I could hear the howling wind through the phone. In the end, I went to see her. I'm sorry for bailing tonight. I'm not mad. You're a doctor. It's your job, I understand. Why'd you say we shouldn't meet anymore? That night, it was just an accident. Lily, I'm not gonna cling to you over this. I know you don't like me. So, you think I bring random people home overnight? No, that's not what I meant. I quickly defended myself. I thought that when you posted on social media the next day, you were announcing a new relationship. She paused. Turns out I was overthinking it. Lily? I opened my eyes wide in surprise. So, you don't actually like me, right? Mark. Molly came to see you again. Didn't she? You still can't forget about her. And the social media post was just to spite her. Lily's tone was calm throughout. I couldn't even detect a hint of emotion or mood swing. But it was eerie, making a thought pop into my head. She seemed like she was jealous. Jealous of Molly. But I had never thought of it that way. Besides, I completely let go of her on the night of my birthday. I truly stopped liking her. Lily took off her glasses and rubbed her brow. She was exhausted, having performed surgery for hours and then driving to see me. Her eyes were bloodshot. In the cold winter wind, she stood in front of me, wearing just a thin layer, saying these words. Even if I was dense, I could tell she had some feelings for me. But why would she have feelings for me? I'm just an ordinary guy. Mark. Lily looked at me, maybe because her eyes were slightly red, that she looked a bit aggrieved. You can't treat me like this. Can't start something and just walk away. Can't not be responsible. I haven't. You just said we shouldn't see each other anymore. Lily, I was just worried about causing you trouble. I don't want you to think I'd cling to you because of that one night. So you don't like Molly anymore? The social media post wasn't to make her jealous, right? I wanted to laugh, but my eyes oddly filled with tears. In the thick of night, she stood in the wind, shielding me from the biting cold. I looked up and saw that in her pupils was a tiny reflection of me. Only me. Why was it her that night? Maybe it was from that one late night long ago when I had such a bad stomachache that I thought I was dying. It was her warm hand that reached out to me. So when I saw her, there was an intuition in my heart that she'd save me again. She came to me and reached out her hand a second time. Maybe I shouldn't miss it again. Even if the feelings are just a faint flicker, it's better than having never liked you at all. Lily, stop being unnecessarily jealous. Okay? I haven't liked her for a while now. Before I could finish, Lily cupped my face and stood on her toes to deeply kiss me. Molly didn't know why she went to find Mark. Maybe she was exhausted from the huge fight with Vincent and was thinking of ending it all. Or maybe it was that Dr. Mark mentioned that gave her an uneasy feeling. She found herself inexplicably driving to Mark's shop in the middle of the night. No one came looking for him, proving he lied to her. There wasn't any friends gathering. He was just going to see her. He wanted to get back together with her. And this time, more than any other time before, she hoped they would. But just as she decided to go find Mark, car pulled up outside Mark's shop. When Lily got out of the car, Molly felt her heart abruptly stop. She had always thought that Doctor might have been an ordinary woman. Mark was just a normal guy. How outstanding could the girl pining for him be? But she never expected it to be the woman she saw at Mark's shop. Actually, upon seeing her that day, she had a vague sense of awareness. She arrogantly believed that such a woman wouldn't be interested in Mark. But why couldn't she like him? Wasn't she, too, a woman driving out late at night to find him? Over the long years, Mark had actually become a part of her. So when he decided to let her go for good, she felt this discomfort, this reluctance. But as Lucy said, sometimes you're blind to it yourself. She always thought she didn't like Mark, and that Mark would always love her, wait for her. No matter when, as long as she turned back, Mark would always be there waiting. Time and again, this belief was confirmed. So she was bold, fearless. Until now, she watched Mark and Lily's passionate kiss. She watched as Lily followed Mark inside. She watched as the lights stayed on for a long time, then finally switched off. And in that darkness, Molly heard something in her heart shatter. Molly's phone was ringing, vibrating, endlessly, as if it wouldn't stop until she picked up. She looked at the flashing name on the screen. She chuckled self-mockingly, then answered, "Vincent." "Molly, where are you? They said you saw Mark tonight. Did you go to him? I knew you were lying to me, claiming you don't like him." It's just to deceive me. Molly, if you like him, why did you come back to me? Why did you get back with me? If you got back together with me but are still thinking about him, what is that supposed to mean? What do you take me for? Molly, I'm not Mark, you can't just walk all over me. I'm not going to foolishly wait and love you unconditionally. You're right. Molly suddenly spoke up, causing Vincent's voice to halt. Molly? You're not him, you won't foolishly wait for me, so now you're finally being honest, huh? Molly. Vincent's voice sounded panicked. Haven't dated in 3 years? Molly coldly laughed. Always single after every breakup? Waiting for me? What right do you have to accuse me? Every time we broke up, didn't you quickly go find Mark? Why can you move on seamlessly but I can't? But I never hid it, Vincent, I did move on quickly, but I always admitted it to you. But you? Who was it claiming they hadn't dated anyone else for 3 years? Who lied first? You really can't compare to Mark. At least Mark loves someone wholeheartedly. I'm not even close to him. I'm wishy-washy, indecisive, greedy, and selfish. Vincent, we're just a pair of lost causes. Molly, you actually like Mark, don't you? You've liked him all along, haven't you? Every time you go back to patch things up with him, you're so happy, aren't you? Molly clutched her phone, staring blankly, wondering if she was that obvious. It seems true, like every time she argued with Vincent, she couldn't wait to run to Mark. She wouldn't even wait a single night. It felt like she was subconsciously hoping for a fight with Vincent, wishing for a breakup, so she could naturally go back to Mark, bringing him back into her life again. It seems like only when he's with her does she not feel empty. However, on Mark's birthday, she had argued with Vincent. But their fight wasn't that serious that night, not enough to break up. So, she didn't go to Mark. The next day, Mark posted something on social media. She was actually really mad, but pretended not to care around friends. She stubbornly claimed that Mark was just being petty because he was jealous. And then Mark called, asking his assistant to pick up her things. She did feel a bit panicked at that point, but was too prideful. She couldn't believe Mark truly wanted to leave her. She even had the childish thought of teaching Mark a lesson, to scare him a bit. But those small moments of hesitation resulted in a point of no return. Molly listened to Vincent's voice, leaning back into the car seat, pressing her temple hard. Vincent, let's stop doing this. Molly, what do you mean? Molly stared into the darkness for a while before speaking softly. Let's break up and never see each other again. My room isn't big and the bed is small too. Lily slept on it, feeling cramped, but she refused to go back. Sympathizing with her exhaustion, I decided to sleep on the couch, but Lily wouldn't allow it either. Half awake, some past memories hit me, and I couldn't help but ask, Lily, why were you always so cold to me back then? Even after that night we were together. Although her attitude did soften a bit, I never dared to think that she actually liked me, because you kept breaking up and getting back together with Molly. Lily held me tighter, so I always reminded myself to keep my distance. That time when you got sick at midnight and Molly didn't care, I thought you'd finally break up with her. But you didn't. Lily kissed me, her tone a bit serious. Mark, I was really mad at the time. I didn't understand why you didn't take care of yourself. I had thought about breaking up too. But it was silly, with my birthday coming. I didn't want to spend it alone. My dad died when I was little, and my mom passed when I was in college. I opened this little restaurant to fulfill my dad's dream. Mom was great at cooking and left behind some secret recipes. So after she left, I used their inheritance to start these little spots. But people with no family always crave a little more warmth. Especially on birthdays, you want someone by your side. I didn't think it'd turn out like this. Yet I found a blessing in disguise, meeting Lily. Lucky I ran into you that night. Lily didn't speak, just hugged me tighter. There aren't that many coincidences in the world. It was just someone silently working to get closer. Lily was mad at his lack of self-care and how people bullied him. But mainly, she felt for him. That late night years ago, when he hid away crying over his mom's death anniversary. Maybe he'll never know how heart-wrenching he looked crying. The next day he acted strong, laughing and joking with classmates. So lovable yet heart-aching. Christmas Eve, when he blushed giving her the apples with those younger girls. She shamefully felt moved. But by then, she had all her overseas plans in place, and he was only 19. She thought maybe when he grows up a bit when she returns. So she said nothing. But his apple was the only Christmas gift she accepted. She kept it for a long, long time until she had to toss it. She never imagined, after she left, he'd truly fall for someone else. She saw how he was when he liked someone. Throughout those 3 years with Molly, she'd been watching. And that's why she was always distant. She was scared, afraid he'd pick up on her feelings if she wasn't careful, which would cause him to pull away completely. Until his birthday night. He said it was his birthday, and he didn't want to be alone. Instinctively, she brought him home, and now he was sound asleep beside her. Lily gently kissed his forehead. She knew she'd never let him shed another tear.